Right now, in this very moment, your brain may already be quietly sending you a warning sign about dementia. But here's the problem. It has nothing to do with forgetting names, misplacing your keys, or getting lost on a familiar street. The sign almost everyone misses happens years before any of that. It is something most people experience every single day, and they never once connect it to their brain health. Researchers have found this warning sign showing up 5, even 10 years before memory problems become obvious. By the time most families notice something is wrong, this sign has already been there for years, completely ignored. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what this sign is, why it happens, how to test for it yourself in 5 minutes using items already in your home, and what real steps protect your brain starting today. This is one of the most important videos I have ever made. Please stay with me until the end. If you are new here, welcome. I am Dr. Edward. This channel exists for one reason: helping you protect your independence and your mind for as long as possible. Before we continue, please subscribe and tap that bell. That way, you never miss another video made specifically for your health. If this video helps you today, type the number 1 in the comments below. If you feel I could explain something better, type 0. I read every comment personally, and it genuinely shapes what I teach you next. Let me ask you something. When you picture the first sign of dementia, what comes to mind? For almost everyone, it is the same image: forgetting a name, repeating a question, losing track of the date. That is what we have all been taught to watch for. But here is the truth nobody tells you. By the time memory problems become noticeable, changes inside the brain have usually been building for years already. Memory loss is not the beginning of the story. It is one of the last chapters. Before we go further, let's clear up 3 myths. Myth 1. Memory loss is just normal aging, and there is nothing you can do about it. The truth, the right habits, started early, genuinely change how your brain ages over the decades ahead. Myth 2. If dementia is going to happen, it is purely genetic. The truth major research reviews suggest up to 40% of dementia risk comes from factors you can actually influence. Myth 3. Brain decline only matters once memory problems show up. The truth by then: the changes have typically been building for years already. That is exactly why the earlier signs matter so much. So what actually comes first? According to a growing body of research, one of the earliest detectable signs has almost nothing to do with thinking or memory. It is your sense of smell. I know that sounds strange, but stay with me, because once you understand why, you will never think about your nose the same way again. Here is what is actually happening inside your head. Your sense of smell is the only one of your 5 senses with a direct private hotline into your memory centers. Every other sense, sight, sound, touch, taste, passes through a relay station first. Smell skips that step completely. It travels directly into the hippocampus, the structure responsible for forming new memories, and into the entorhinal cortex right beside it. Now, here is the critical part. Those exact 2 regions are almost always the very first areas affected when Alzheimer's-related changes begin to build up. Think of it like a smoke detector sitting closest to where the fire actually starts. Long before the rest of the house smells smoke, that detector is already going off. Your sense of smell is that detector. And for most people, it starts quietly failing years before any alarm about memory ever rings. Here is what this looks like in real life. Food that used to taste rich and flavorful suddenly tastes flat or strangely dull. You add more salt, more sugar, more spice, just to taste anything at all. You no longer notice when milk has gone bad until you actually taste it. Perfume or scented candles barely register, even up close. You cannot smell smoke or gas the way you once could. Family members start commenting that you use more seasoning, more cologne than before. And you genuinely do not understand why they are noticing. Each of these moments feels small. Each one gets brushed off as getting older, or a stuffy nose. But a major study following older adults for several years found something striking. Those who could not identify common odors were up to 3 times more likely to develop dementia. This is not a guarantee, but it is a signal, and it is one almost nobody is watching for. The sense of smell is not the only early sign hiding in plain sight. Struggling to follow a fast-moving group conversation, even though your hearing tests fine. Feeling oddly lost in a store or building you have actually been to many times. Losing your train of thought in the middle of a task that used to feel automatic. Subtle changes in mood that family members notice before you do. Becoming more withdrawn, more irritable, or strangely indifferent to things you once cared about. None of these things alone means dementia is present. Plenty have harmless explanations, like stress, poor sleep, or a sinus infection. But when several of these signs show up together and persist for months, that pattern deserves real attention, not dismissal. Now here is the part I really need you to hear. Catching changes like this early does not mean a diagnosis is coming. It means you have a window of time, often years, where the right actions make a real difference. Research consistently shows lifestyle changes made during this window can slow decline. In some cases, they can delay symptoms by years. This is not about fear. This is about awareness, used early enough to actually matter. So let's actually do something about this right now. I call this the 5-item smell check. Go to your kitchen and gather 5 strongly scented items you know well. Coffee grounds, a bar of soap, toothpaste, a cut onion, and a scented candle work perfectly. Close your eyes, and one at a time, bring each item close to your nose. Try to identify what it is purely from the smell before opening your eyes to check. If you can clearly identify 4 or 5 out of 5, that is genuinely reassuring. If you struggle with 2 or more, that is worth mentioning to your doctor. I want to be very clear here. A weak result does not mean you have dementia. Sinus infections, allergies, certain medications, and simple aging can all reduce smell without any connection to brain health. This test gives you information, not a diagnosis. And information is exactly what helps you and your doctor decide what comes next. If you do notice a consistent change, mention it specifically at your next checkup. Many doctors will not screen for smell change unless you bring it up yourself. Beyond this test, 4 daily habits protect the exact brain regions we covered today. First, move your body daily, even just a 20-minute walk. Physical activity directly increases blood flow to the hippocampus. Second, prioritize real sleep, 7 to 8 hours a night. Your brain clears out harmful waste proteins primarily during deep sleep. Third, stay socially engaged through regular, meaningful conversation. This activates the same brain networks affected early in cognitive decline. Fourth, challenge your brain with genuinely new learning, not repetitive puzzles. A new recipe, a new language, a new hobby novelty builds fresh neural connections. None of these 4 habits requires money, equipment, or a prescription. They require consistency, and that is something every single person watching is capable of. A 5-minute smell test, 4 simple daily habits. That is genuinely all it takes to start protecting the parts of your brain that matter most, starting today instead of someday. Before you go, I want to share one more detail that surprises almost everyone I tell. The smell test we just did is not just useful for catching early signs. It can also help you tell normal forgetfulness apart from something that deserves closer attention. Normal aging forgetfulness looks like briefly forgetting a name, then remembering it later that same day. It looks like misplacing your keys, then retracing your steps to find them. The pattern that deserves more attention looks different. It looks like forgetting a conversation ever happened at all, not just the details of it. It looks like asking the same question repeatedly, with no memory of having asked before. If what you are noticing matches that second pattern, please do not wait for it to become more obvious. Bring it up with a doctor sooner rather than later. Earlier evaluation almost always means more options. Your brain has been quietly working for you every single day of your life, often without a single thank you. Paying attention to its early signals is not something to fear. It is one of the most powerful acts of self-care available to you at any age. The mornings when you feel completely fine are exactly the mornings to keep these habits going. Consistency now is what protects clarity later. You are not powerless in this. You have more influence over how your brain ages than most people ever realize. Protect it, notice it, and give it the daily care it has been giving you all along. If this video helped you today, please type 1 in the comments. Share it with someone who needs to hear this just as much as you did. And the video on screen right now walks you through the difference between normal forgetfulness and something more serious. I will see you there.